will be happy life. The husband is a devotee and the wife is materialistic, be prepared to follow him. From Mahabharata, we learn that when Gandhari understood that her would-be husband Dhritarashtra was blind, she immediately began to practice blindness herself. She covered her eyes and played the part of a blind woman. She decided that since her husband was blind, she must also act like a blind woman. Otherwise, she would be proud of her eyes and her husband would be seen as inferior. The word Samanuvrata indicate duty of a wife to adopt the special circumstances in which the husband is situated. Of course, if the husband is as great as Kardama Muni, then a very good results accrues from following him. But if but even if the husband is not a great devotee like Kardama Muni, it is the wife's duty to adapt herself according to his mentality. That makes married life very happy. It is also mentioned herein that by following strict vows of a chaste woman, Princess Devahuti became very skinny and therefore her husband became compassionate. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king and yet was serving him just like an ordinary woman. She was reduced in health by such activities and he became compassionate and addressed her as follows. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we can see how Devahuti was able to attract the blessings of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni became very compassionate upon her, seeing how faithfully she has served, and we will find that Kardama Muni will bless her in the further verses we will see, with up to the point of love of Godhead. She was able to become a great devotee of the Lord just by serving another great devotee, the husband Kardama Muni. So, how she was able to achieve that is being described in the previous verses also, and now these further verses are also describing. What did she practice? So here it says, Savai Dev Rishi Varyastam. Kardama Muni is not an ordinary personality. Dev Rishi Varyas. He is the topmost of Dev Rishis, just like we have Dev Rishi Narada. Likewise, Kardama Muni is the foremost of Dev Rishis, saintly people. Savai Dev Rishi Varyastam, Manavim, the daughter of Manu, Samanuvratam, Sama Anuvratam, completely obeyed, followed, and served. Anuvratam, Samanuvratam, Samyak Anuvratam, completely followed. So Prabhupada translates that as fully devoted. Later we will find Prabhupada also gives another important understanding about Samanuvratam. that actually Samanuvratam also means she molded herself according to the requirements of Kardamamuni. She came from a very aristocratic background. She did not maintain that aristocracy after she came to Kardamamuni. She completely changed her way of life, everything. She changed her situation according to the situation of Kardamamuni. She served him practically in that kind of condition of poverty, like a menial, even though she was brought up like a princess. So that is another very important meaning of Samanuvratam. Then, what did she consider her husband? Such a great personality. Deivad Garishyaha Pratyur. Greater than even providence. Providence means time, kala. Actually, it's a fact. The great personalities can change even the providence. For a common man, his providence, destiny is fixed. But if we come in touch with a great personality, pure devotees of the Lord, they can change our destination for good. They can change our providence. Just like I was hearing Stoka Maharaj's class, I think 1 or 2 days back. So he was explaining that how generally we all, when we are born, our death is also written along with that. Correct? We are born, our destiny is fixed. We are going to live 70 years, 80 years, or this many breath, whatever we take, it is already fixed. But if somehow or other we get the blessings of the great personalities, then this age can be increased. Our lifespan can be increased. That's how we find they would bless Ayushman Bhava. It's not that they are simply giving blessings in vain. You are going to die in 70 years only, and your age is not increasing, and simply they are saying Ayushman Bhava. No. It's a fact, but by their blessings, their age could increase, their lifespan could increase. Similarly, it is also possible that if the Supreme Lord or His great devotees are not pleased, if we offend them, just like we were hearing, Vaishnava Aparad is called Hatimata, right? It is like, letting loose an mad elephant. Then what happens, just like we find, when Lord Krishna was present on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it is said, just by glancing, he reduced the lifespan of people. So it is very much possible. Similarly, if we offend a great personality, then also we should understand our wealth, our fortune, and our lifespan, everything can get reduced. So she knew, Devhuti knew, that Kardama Muni is a great personality, and she took him more than even providence. So that is what it is said here. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than providence. She knew that he can change destiny. Now, I may not be endowed with love of Godhead, but if I serve such a personality, it is very much possible that I can become qualified to receive to be the recipient of mercy of the Lord. She knew that. And that is why she served him so much, with awe, veneration, respect, and being fully devoted to him. So, Deivad Gariyasaha Pratyur. Deivad means providence. She understood and served him as if he is greater than even providence. Ashanam Mahashishaha. And she was expecting great blessings from such a powerful sage. And we will find that factually she was able to receive. She was able to completely satisfy him. Kardama Muni became very compassionate, very happy, very satisfied. And then we will find Kardama Muni will bless her. Then, Kalena Bhuyasa Shamam. For a very long time, she served very, very menially Kardama Muni. Karshitam Vrtacharyaya. So Prabhupada is translating Karshitam means she became very emaciated, very skinny she became by serving. That means with her neglecting her even bodily health, she served Kardama Muni. Even neglecting her own health, she became very emaciated, very skinny. Vrtacharyaya, she followed great vows, religious vows, whatever is required for a wife to follow. Then what happened? When she did like this, Prema Gadgada Gadgadaya Vacha. Kardama Muni became very compassionate and with love, his voice flattering when he saw that how the wife has served so nicely. He became choked with love, and with choked voice he spoke to his wife as follows. Piditaha kripaya abravit. When he saw her in this condition, then he spoke in a very compassionate, kripaya means very compassionately spoke. So Prabhupada brings out few very interesting points in the purport. This is the beauty of Prabhupada. He is a great personality, the pure devotees of the Lord. They are not only well versed in the Vedic literature. This is very interesting to understand. When Suta Goswami was made to sit on the Vyasa Asana, there Prabhupada points out few very important things. They say that you are not only free from all sinful life, anagha, also very well. Not only that you are very well versed in the scriptures, you explain them very, very nicely. Akhyatani. Adhitani, akhyatani. Adhitani means you are very vastly learned. You have heard from your spiritual master very, very attentively. You have assimilated that knowledge and then you explain them. So this is a very, very important quality we can find. So similarly, here as Prabhupada is pointing out, Prabhupada is very well versed in the Vedic way of life, in the scriptures. Prabhupada understands not only that there is a requirement for devotees, just like the Vedic scriptures. Veda Vyasa, to do the welfare for the whole world, he contemplated what can be done. So what he did, the one single Veda, he thought everybody cannot understand. He was very compassionate for whole mankind. He wanted to do the welfare for Kshatriyas. He wanted to do the welfare for Brahmanas. He wanted to take care of the welfare of Vaishyas and Shudras and even lower than them. So when he contemplated like that, he thought that it will be difficult. Everybody cannot understand the Vedic literatures. Vedas can be understood only by greatly saintly Brahmanas. Then what about women? What about Vaishyas? What about Shudras? How they will be able to understand? So then very compassionately, he divided the one Veda into four and then further subdivided into Upanishads, then Itihasas, Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, so that everybody can become benefited. So that's how we find in the Vedic literatures, those who cannot take directly to devotional service of the Lord, for them also there is an arrangement. There is something called Karma Kanda, there is something called Jnana Kanda, there is something called Upasana Kanda, and then there is pure devotional service of the Lord. So all these arrangements were made by Veda Vyasa. Similarly, Prabhupada understands all these intricacies of the Vedic life. So very important point Prabhupada is bringing. Prabhupada is saying, if the husband is great, like Kardama Muni, and if the wife faithfully serves such a great husband, the result is very great. What is the result she will be achieving? She will get love of Godhead and she gets a son like Kapila. This is what she will be benedicted with. Let us say, for example, the husband is not a very great devotee of the Lord. Then is the life condemned? Then what is the duty of the wife? So according to Vedic life, even if the husband is not a very great devotee of the Lord, to maintain a peace in the household life so that gradually they can advance to spiritual life, it is still required that the wife Samanuvrita. She molds herself according to the mentality of the husband so that there can be peace and prosperity in household life. So that their household life can be happy. And gradually, by following the principles of the Vedic literature, they will also advance in spiritual life. That's how we find Prabhupada is giving the example of Gandhari. See, we can see the result. There is a different results which one can obtain by completely following the husband who is not a very great devotee and who is a great devotee. We find the example that's devotional, material. So that is also, there is a place in the Vedic society for that also. So much so that Gandhari, her vision became just by taking to the circumstances in which Dhritarashtra was there, who was blind, from his very birth. So she understood that now I am going to live with such a kind of a husband. So my husband should not feel inferior to me in any way. So then she herself took the vow that I am also going to be like this throughout my life when I am going to live with my husband. So she blindfolded herself. And by that chastity, by that kind of samanuvritam, by following and adjusting herself to the conditions of her husband, she became so powerful. Her eyes became so, filled with so much of material power that anything she could see, it could turn to, practically like iron. That's how we find she was able to make the whole body of her son Duryodhana like an iron. But of course, Krishna knew this. And when Duryodhana was planning to go and meet mother completely naked, because mother had told, Gandhari told, you come completely naked. Because if your whole body has to be made like that. So it's a material blessing she wanted to give. Whatever she had received, now she wanted to pass it down. That benefit of that she wanted to pass it down to the son. But Krishna knew. So when when he wanted to approach naked like this, so immediately Krishna started smiling and laughing. So then he became little ashamed. Then he said, so then Krishna told, Arey, what is this? Mother may have told, but at least you should be ashamed. How you can go? You are fully grown up How a fully grown-up son can go naked before the mother? At least you cover your private portion, that much you do. So then he covered his private portion and he went. And Gandhari, when she opened her eyes, she was shocked. And she also smiled. She knew that it is the work of the Lord. So anyway, his all other parts became completely ironized, became like iron. And later on, only that portion which could not become like an iron, then Bhima broke that portion, and that is how finally it was possible to kill Duryodhana. So we can see there is a difference between serving a great husband like Kardama Muni, the result is spiritual. Serving not a great devotee like Dhritarashtra, faithfully serving, there is a result. But that result may not be that you will advance in devotional service. You will become materially powerful, just like Gandhari was able to attain that kind of power. But that is also recommended. The whole idea is that there are different sections. People have different kind of mentality. Everybody may not be a great devotee of the Lord, but there is a place for them to advance in spiritual life also. So by following, by making a household life, even if somebody is following karma kanda, it is recommended that wife and husband cooperate like this. Wife comes down to the position of the husband, takes to his mentality, so that gradually their peaceful household life can advance spiritually. So we can see how Prabhupada is completely acquainted with this kind of understanding of our Vedic life. So that's how Prabhupada is pointing out that if the husband is great like Kardama Muni, then the result is definitely great. But even if the husband is not very great like Kardama Muni, still it is recommended in the Vedic scripture that the wife should be Samanuvrata. She should follow, taking to the conditions of the husband, so that their household life can be peaceful and gradually they will be able to elevate in spiritual life. So that is another very, very important thing. One more very important point which Prabhupada is pointing out is that if the husband is great and if the wife is materialistic, that is also not a proper combination. See, Samanuvrata also means gradually the wife should also take to the spiritual side of the husband. If the husband is spiritually advanced and wife remains materialistic, then for that whole household life, it is very unfavorable. In such a condition of life, it is better the husband takes sannyas, gives up such a household life. It is recommended. Of course, he has to see to it that his so-called materialistic wife is well placed, at least materially, protected properly. Then it is possible. Not that one takes to, married life and then one takes this as some kind of license and I do not like my wife, so better I take sannyas. That is not the idea of taking sannyas, isn't it? If household ashram is not favorable for practicing devotional service, then one must be ready to give up. Just like it's true for a brahmachari, if he is not finding it that his brahmacharya life, that ashram is favorable for him, he should be able to give it up and take grahastha life if that is favorable. Similarly, if a grahastha life is not favorable, then he must be ready to give up that grahastha life and take to another higher orders of life where he can practice Krishna consciousness properly. We see that in the example of Prabhupada personally, wherein Prabhupada tried for a long time, so much so Prabhupada is saying that actually In the beginning, he never thought that he will be able to take sannyas. Even though sometimes in his dream, his spiritual master was coming and his spiritual master was telling that you take sannyas. And many of his god brothers were also saying. And he was always knowing that it is my spiritual master who is actually somehow or other either through the dream or through my god brothers, he is asking me to take sannyas. But Prabhupada himself says that in the very beginning, he thought that it is very fearful idea. How can I give up my whole family life? Very difficult, isn't it? But when Prabhupada saw that actually his household life is not very favorable for spreading Krishna consciousness, the wife is more interested in materialistic way of life, so much so that once she sold away all the translation, very, painstakingly Prabhupada had written, commentary on Bhagavad Gita. She sold that away for biscuits. You see? So then, sometime Prabhupada laughingly asked her that either you give up your tea and biscuit or you give up your husband. So laughingly, jokingly, she also said, yes, better I will give up my husband. Isn't it? Then, when Prabhupada saw this, and Prabhupada also saw that providence by the arrangement of the Lord, now his business is also not doing well. He was thinking that I will first make my business good, with that money I will serve the Lord. And when he saw that Krishna took away everything, then Prabhupada finally took it as that it is the mercy of the Lord. The Lord wants me to give up this so-called household life so that I can do the welfare of everybody. And Prabhupada says, by giving up my household life, it's not that I became bereft of anything, rather I gained so much. I gave up only few children, but now I have so many children. Isn't it? All his disciples, Prabhupada is saying, they're all my spiritual children. So, that is also, we have to understand that the combination of material and spiritual does not go very well together. And it goes with the principle of spiritual life that asat sang tyaga ei vaishnava achar. If household life is asat, then better to give up that kind of asat life and associate with devotees. Then we will be able to progress in spiritual life. So, Prabhupada explains this very important principle in this context here. Prabhupada is saying, if the husband is a devotee and his wife is materialistic, there cannot be any peace in the home. So, for that also, Prabhupada is saying, the wife must see the tendencies of the husband and must be prepared to follow him. That means, if the husband is a great devotee, wife is materialist, if she wants her household life to progress properly, then she must check her materialistic tendencies. She must dovetail herself. She must come and see the tendencies of the husband which are spiritually, and she must take to those kind of tendencies. This is actually very important principle. One must understand. Prabhupada says this is such an important principle that one can test himself by this principle alone. He does not require somebody else to tell him that you are a great devotee. No. Very simple test, Prabhupada says. Prabhupada is saying, one may test himself by seeing how much he is inclined to live without unwanted association, materialistic association. It's a test. Such a household life is called graham andhakupam. If one is so much attached to his household life, which has which is practically like a blind well, and which is not actually a shelter for spiritual life, then actually Vedic literature says that one is knowingly drinking poison or committing suicide. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a sannyasi, he showed this very important principle that one must avoid the association of Vishayi. So Prabhupada says there are two kinds of Vishayi: addicted to wealth, addicted to woman. Or Prabhupada even says, a woman who is very materialistic, her association is also called Vishayi. So anybody who is interested in these things, that means only in sensual pleasures and only in the comforts of life, such a kind of person is actually knowingly committing suicide. Association of such a person should be avoided if we want to advance in spiritual life. That's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu externally avoided the association of pound and shilling man like King Prataparudra. When devotees were forcing him, he said, no. How can a sannyasi meet a pound and shilling man? He is living with wealth and women. Of course, later on we find when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when it was demonstrated that actually he is a great devotee of the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did give him opportunity to serve him. But otherwise, externally, to set this example that for a sannyasi or for anyone who wants to advance in spiritual life, he must give up this kind of association, Vishayi. Prabhupada says not only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada is commenting on that verse, how devotional service has to be practiced in association of devotees. Because you give up association of non-devotees, but it is very difficult until and unless you associate with devotees, Sat, you cannot give up Asat. Very difficult. So, the best way to give up Asat is to take to Sat, to associate with great devotees. So, in the context of Satam Prasangan Mama Virya Samavido, where Krishna is recommending, one should hear glories, my glories in association of devotees. Prabhupada very nicely explains this. Prabhupada is saying, Satam Prasangat, Sat Sangha. Satam Prasangat, what is the meaning? Sat Sangha. Sat means devotees, Asat means non-devotees. So, associate with devotees means you must disassociate with non-devotees also. These two principles are important together. Even in moral instruction, Chanakya Pandit, he advises, Tyaja Durjana Samasargam Bhaja Sadhu Samagamam. So he's giving two advice. Tyaja Durjana Samsargam. Give up association of Durjana, materialistic people. Bhaja Sadhu Samagamam. And you take to the association of great saintly people. Although he was a politician, great politician, still a learned Brahmana, and knowing all moral instruction, he gave this advice. Tyaja Durjana Samsargam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advised to associate with this class of men, hankering after money and women. Death is better, preferred, than to associate. See? When the devotees were telling him that you meet Prataparudra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted that verse. So what did he say? Nishkinchanasya jigmishor bhavasagarasya. Anyone who wants to cross over bhavasagara, then he has to become nishkinchana, non-attached to all these things. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. So, this is a very important instructions which we can see here. How Devahuti, understanding the greatness of her husband, actually molded herself so that she will be able to get her blessings. Another very important point which Prabhupada is giving towards the end is how Devahuti attracted the blessings of Kardama Muni. See, that is also very interesting. Prabhupada is saying, it is also mentioned herein that by following the strict vow of a chaste woman, Princess Devahuti became very skinny. So, as a very chaste woman, following all the different vows, religious vows required to serve such a great personality, she served Kardama Muni. And Prabhupada is saying, this was the reason Kardama Muni became very compassionate. And therefore, her husband became compassionate. How he became compassionate? He was able to see the sincerity in the attempt of Devahuti in serving him. What sacrifice she has made. This is important. Without sacrifice, it is very difficult. That's why it is very important. We should generally try to take devotees who are ready to make sacrifices in Krishna consciousness. That is the test of their sincerity. Those who are not ready to make sacrifices, I want my house also, I want to serve my parents also, I want to serve my wife also, I want to serve my children also, and at the same time I want Krishna consciousness, then he is a fool. Krishna says he is a fool. No. You must be ready to sacrifice. Without, there is a saying even in the material world, no pain, no gain. You cannot gain anything. So sometimes, even in devotees' life, sometimes we lose this understanding. We are thinking, no, is it possible I have to serve my materialistic parents, materialistic wife, children, everybody, and at the same time I will advance in spiritual life? It's not possible. Sometimes they are ready to give up devotional service to take to so-called material duties, considering that is more higher than. No. Then we cannot attract the compassion of the Lord, the compassion of the devotees. Here we can see Kardama Muni was able to see the sacrifice Devahuti made. This is very important. How much sacrifice she made. She came from the house of aristocracy, and now she is serving like a poor woman. So much sacrifice she has made just to serve the husband, so that his spiritual life can be taken care properly. So how it is not possible that she is going to receive the blessings? Similarly, we all have to make sacrifices for Prabhupada. We all should be ready to serve just like Devahuti served Kardama Muni. She took Kardama Muni like the spiritual master. A great devotee of the Lord can be taken as a spiritual master. Sometime this question was asked by some of the disciples of Prabhupada. So, the wife asked, Prabhupada, can we take our husband like a spiritual master? Then Prabhupada clarified, this is very important. Prabhupada clarified, anyone who gives spiritual instructions can be taken as spiritual master, like a Shiksha Guru. Not Diksha Guru. The wife should not think, now I don't have to take shelter of Prabhupada, I can take shelter of my husband and it will be possible. No, husband can only give guidance. Just like any other senior devotees can give guidance. So because husband is a very intimate friend of the wife and the wife is intimate friend of the husband, then mutually it is possible that yes, instructions can be given. But actual following has to be done of this initiating spiritual master. So Prabhupada is our initiating spiritual master. So similarly, just like Devahuti served with so much of sacrifice, we all should be ready to make sacrifices for Prabhupada, for Krishna consciousness movement. Then we will be able to attract compassion from Prabhupada. Then it will be possible. So that's how we are seeing here. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king, yet was serving him just like an ordinary woman. She was reduced in health by such activities, and he became compassionate and addressed her as follows. So we'll see the further instructions in the coming verses. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, Nishkinchana has one question.